Welcome back to the Quantum Leap, charting the next decade of medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Nirdosh Jagota. Over the past 9 episodes, we have explored the incredible power of artificial intelligence in pharmaceutical research. We've seen how AI can mine millions of papers, design new molecules, and even automate physical laboratories. But today, we are going to look at the fundamental limit of what AI and the classical supercomputers that power it can actually do. Today we begin our exploration of the next computing revolution, quantum computing. To understand why quantum computing is the ultimate catalyst for the future of medicine, we have to go back to 1982. The legendary physicist Richard Feynman gave a lecture where he pointed out a massive fundamental problem with traditional computers. He said, and I quote, "Nature isn't classical, damn it, and if you want to make a simulation of nature, you'd better make it quantum mechanical." What did he mean by that? Well, the computers we use today, from the smartphone in your pocket to the massive supercomputers running ChatGPT, are classical computers. They process information using bits, which are tiny switches that can be either a 0 or a 1. It's binary, on or off, black or white. But nature, especially at the molecular level where drugs interact with proteins, does not work in black and white. It works in quantum mechanics. It is granular, fuzzy, and probabilistic. If you want to simulate a drug molecule interacting with a disease target using a classical computer, you hit what scientists call the exponential wall. To simulate a molecule accurately, you have to track every possible quantum state of every electron. If you add just one more particle to your simulation, the computing power required doubles. A simple caffeine molecule has 24 atoms and 102 electrons. To simulate its exact quantum behavior on a classical computer would require more bits than there are atoms in the observable universe. It is mathematically impossible. And that is why, today, drug discovery still relies so heavily on trial and error in the wet lab. Because our classical computers simply cannot simulate chemistry accurately. Enter the quantum computer. Instead of bits, quantum computers use qubits. And thanks to the bizarre laws of quantum mechanics, a qubit doesn't have to be just a 0 or a 1. Through a property called superposition, it can be a complex combination of both at the same time. Think of a classical bit as a coin sitting flat on a table. It's either heads or tails. A qubit is like a coin spinning in the air. While it's spinning, it is a blur of both heads and tails simultaneously. Add to this another property called entanglement, where qubits become inextricably linked so that the state of one instantly influences the state of another, no matter how far apart they are. When you link these spinning entangled qubits together, you don't get a linear increase in computing power. You get an exponential explosion. A quantum computer doesn't just calculate faster, it calculates differently. It speaks the native language of molecules. It doesn't have to approximate chemistry. It can simulate it exactly, from the ground up. For a long time, this was just theoretical. Quantum computers were too noisy, too prone to errors to be useful. But the landscape has changed dramatically. Just recently, in December 2024, Google Quantum AI published a landmark paper in the journal Nature. They unveiled their Willow quantum chip, featuring 105 qubits. With Willow, Google achieved something scientists have been chasing since 1995: exponential error correction. They proved that by adding more qubits, they could actually make the system more stable, not less. To prove its power, Google ran a benchmark calculation. Willow completed the task in under 5 minutes. If you gave that exact same task to the fastest classical supercomputer on Earth, it would take 10 septillion years. To put that in perspective, the universe is only about 13.8 billion years old. 10 septillion years is roughly 700 quadrillion times the age of the universe. And Willow did it in 5 minutes. The industry knows what this means. In June 2026, IBM committed over $10 billion to quantum computing, targeting the delivery of fault-tolerant quantum systems within 5 years. A recent analysis by McKinsey estimates that quantum computing could create up to $500 billion in value for the life sciences industry by 2035. Why? Because the chemical space of potential drug compounds is estimated at 10 to the 60th power molecules. That is vastly more than classical algorithms can ever explore. Quantum computing will allow us to create highly accurate simulations of molecular interactions from scratch without relying on existing experimental data. We will be able to predict toxicity, stability, and off-target side effects computationally before a drug is ever synthesized in a lab. It will generate the high-fidelity data that our AI models desperately need to become truly predictive. We are standing at the dawn of the quantum era in medicine. The fusion of artificial intelligence to guide the strategy and quantum computing to execute the fundamental simulations will compress decades of drug discovery into months. Thank you for joining me on this foundational episode of The Quantum Leap. I am Dr. Nirdosh Jagota. Next time, we'll dive deeper into exactly how these quantum simulations will be applied to solve specific, previously unsolvable challenges in drug design. Until then, keep looking to the future.